Hello, and welcome to Andy Fancher Presents, where today we meet a 91-year-old William Dixon Miracle, who during the final year of World War II and a few months after, served as a communications officer in the U.S. Navy. We are accompanied by his younger sister, Virginia Allen, in his assisted living facility to hear the rest of his military experience. What was the date of your birth and when were you born?
January 21st, 1925, born in Dallas. Well, I went to Sunset High School and I was on the rifle team because we had a family farm and I hunted out there and got familiar with how to handle firearms. I joined the Navy when I was 18. Otherwise, I would have been drafted in the Army. And I had been in ROTC and I was tired of marching up and down, so I thought the Navy would be nicer. And went downtown to a recruiting officer. I volunteered to join the Navy. I didn't want to go in the Army.
So were your parents at all worried about you joining the service?
If I had asked them, they probably would have said, don't do it. But I was pretty independent. When my mother found out that I joined, she cried. I remember that. The Navy sent me to Cornell University Midshipman School. That's in upstate New York, Ithaca, New York, which is officer training. Teach you how to do navigation and things like that. And after I finished there, they sent me to Harvard. Well, it was pretty rigorous physically. A lot of swimming, since it was the Navy, and a lot of running. I did run some track in the Navy. I wasn't equipped to be an athlete, but we were really in top shape by the time we got out of midshipman school. And after I got to be an officer, you got to wear some pretty nice clothes. But anyway, went to San Francisco for a little while, and then I learned California was called the land of fruits and nuts. But anyway, got on a ship, went to Hawaii, got on another ship, went to the Marshall Islands. The Navy, if they want to send you somewhere, they put you on whatever's going there, And it so happened this cargo ship was going there, and they put me on it. I remember I was determined not to get seasick. Then they served soup, the first day out. I'm sitting there looking at that soup and it's going back and forth like, I said, I'm not going to look at that. They sent me to a little island called Ebi. The ship pulled up there and we went down a ladder and got on like a motorboat, and it went into the base, where our base was.
What was your job on the Marshall Islands?
I was a communication officer. We sent messages using Morse code. Da-da-da-da-dit, like this. So that's what I did, communication officer. I know we had some Marines that were kind of guarding our facilities, and one Marine was going to another part of the island, and a Jap jumped out and surrendered to him, and he marched this Jap into our camp, and so he marched him back in my office. The Jap went first, and he thought it was funny, I'm at my desk working, look up, and there's this Jap standing there. Of course, the guy that behind it all, he thought it was funny. I did something to him within the limits of the amount of punishment I could deal out. And so, me and Admiral Nimitz defeated the Japanese.
Swarms of United States aircraft fly in formation overhead as the ceremony ends. The final United Nations victory has been won. The war is over. Peace is here.
After being on Kwajalein, they sent me to Guam, which seemed like Australia compared to Ebi, because Guam is a pretty good sized island. Well, the Japs on these little islands, they were still wanting to fight because they didn't know the war was over. We were broadcasting all around that the war was over, but they didn't believe it. They thought it was propaganda. But they were back in the jungles thinking the war was still going, you know, and you had to be careful. We had a Jap POW camp where we kept the prisoners of war. They had been captured and they hadn't put them in the brig yet. They had them in a little enclosure, you know, it was easy to get out of. They busted out one night, some of them, and they weren't gone long. They were starving to death, you know. And I carried a .45 then, and I made sure it was loaded. But anyway, eventually I got to come back to the States, and after I came back from the service, I first came to San Francisco under the Golden Gate Bridge, and boy was I glad to see that, because I was home in America.
Mr. Miracle went on to serve 1 year in the Naval Reserves, and afterwards worked for his father's Dallas-based brokerage company, which he later inherited, successfully ran, and finally sold in the late 1990s.
But anyway, I was one of thousands of young men, you know, that volunteered or got drafted. Later I always thought it was very fortunate I was born then, because I got to be born just in time to hit World War II and the Great Depression.